Before we get into the episode, we wanted to thank Devin Booz and KD for recently joining our Patreon. This brings us to 20 total members in the Patreon. Thank you both for signing up, and thank you to everyone in the group. But let's get into the episode. Dear Cartel, my name is Tom Kelly, and on February 7th, 2019, my cohort, my best friend, Patrick Holmes, and I put out an episode called Cartel's Chroma, Honestly a One-Album Wonder, and I have lived every day since to try to walk that statement back as fast as I possibly can. This episode is an apology. We didn't know what we were saying. We were drunk on the power, and we did not mean it. Please forgive us. Here is the Honestly episode. What is going on, everybody? I'm Tom.
And I'm Pat.
We're best friends, and you're listening to the Reminiscent Podcast. Pat, do you remember recording that episode? Can I read you the description?
Yeah, we did Chroma, the album.
Okay.
So we've done a few full album episodes, and this was a full album, just for context. Today we're doing the Honestly music video, just as like a little clarifier, but yes, please proceed.
All right. So I must have just been feeling off this day. Let's face it, Chroma was a good album, but it fell just short of great. Damn. This is such a great album. What the was our mood this day? This is terrible. It's blasphemy.
Yeah, so I think we were still doing like figuring out the balance between like our SEO presence versus our own voices, because we had just recently rebranded the show from a rambling nonsense podcast to a music podcast specifically about our favorite high school bands and everything like that, emo, 2000s, whatever. Obviously, the show has grown a lot since, and I don't think we were even being shock jockey, because in the description you're like, and everything they got right. Like, wait, did I hate it or loved it? You know, it's just like
right.
And the thing is, we were a little unfamiliar. So we were doing the episode about the album itself, kind of cutting ourselves off from adding perspective from the Band in the Bubble stuff. And there's interviews on Lead Singer Syndrome and things like that, where Will goes on and says, I don't know, just the arc of Cartel, is hectic in general. So I think I think really have been waiting to just take it on back. Can we get another?
Right.
Can we get another? And there weren't a ton of music videos off this album, but Honestly was definitely the first to pop on my radar. Anyway, I'm glad we get to talk about it. To A, apologize profusely. B, tell some stories about Cartel, if for those who weren't around then when we did that episode. And C, man, I lost myself in my own list and it was only 3 items long. Anyway.
Well, let me say this. I'm looking at our downloads of that episode, and even with, I mean, it's an old one, so we definitely had significantly fewer. See also almost nothing. But even the surrounding episodes had 2 to 3 more times downloads. So if we were going for SEO, we did the worst job possible, because there's like nothing on that episode, man, which I'm glad about. It makes me feel better now.
Yeah. So swing and a miss on a lot of fronts. Also, we have proceeded to gloat about our love of Cartel in episode since. Every mixtape episode, there in some way or another, Runaway gets picked. It just does. Or say anything else for that matter. Also, we realized kind of through doing the show that our band was just a Cartel knockoff band.
Right.
Because that's what all the members of our high school garage band, 4 Under Par, which is the name of our high school garage band, for those who have not heard that before. So of all the ridiculous things we could say while being ridiculous people ourselves, it was saying that they were one-album wonders, leaving so many things out of context. We're not even a shock jockey pod, and it's one of our legitimate, maybe favorite bands ever, in a very small circle there, at least for us personally. So yeah, just an odd thing that took place. You must have been, like you said, maybe just before the coffee hit or something, just putting something up in the show notes and things like that. So, we're here to save face. We're here to save face.
Yeah. I mean, not to try to completely redo that episode, but like Minstrel's Prayer, QA, If I Fail, Burn This City. Like, this is a front to back album of which there are very few front to back albums, even from some of our favorite bands of all time.
Yeah. And they had that fun little run where they had a few albums that were only 5 letters long that started with C, or 6 letters long, that are just like the name of the band is and everything like that. So they had like this whole little like fandom that was following intricacies like that in terms of their album titles and everything. What's not to love? What's not to love about a Cartel? I will say this. Honestly, the music video, what we're here to talk about today, is my first memory. Easy. Your basement, band practice, AOL sessions, or whatever was on your TV all the time. You know, it was just, I don't want to equate it too much to like a Lily Allen music video, but a lot of color. It was nothing too dark or dangerous about it. No, not too Tim Burton-y, not too My Chemical Romance-y. It was just like, hey, look at these fresh-faced, I don't want to curse or anything, but look at these fresh-faced buckaroos. And I don't know, they just came in playing some songs. It sounded very interesting. Took a little stab at like what social media will do to like our society, and we're kind of right. We can get more on that later. They weren't the only ones to take a stab at kind of guessing what that sort of stuff would do, obviously through the years, but kind of early on that train a little bit, I thought. But yeah, I remember watching it and being immediately intrigued. The halftime outro stuff killed me from the jump. I just remember being like, what is this? What is this? Tom, are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? Like in my head, it's a memory where we're all just shaking each other like, look at this. But I'm sure we were eating cereal. Like it probably wasn't as momentous as I think in my head, but it felt that way. It was like, hey, this is going to change everything. This is it, man. Take a look. Look right now. Look at it.
Yeah. I mean, it really did blow me away. I mean, so this is kind of something that I wanted to bring up that I thought was really funny and unique. The person that introduced me to this band and the person who encouraged me to dive deeper into Brand New's discography, his name was Dan. And he was like, it was like sophomore year AP World History. He's like, dude, you should check out the band Cartel. And I knew that he was into metal at the time. And I was kind of not quite in that space yet. I think he listened to more like sludgy stuff that I've never really been into. So I just didn't listen. But yeah, it came up on AOL sessions. They had their live, they had a live session. They played Say Anything Else, Honestly, and Wonderwall, which I didn't know was a cover at the time. But I was like, Dan, oh my God, thank you for recommending them. Their song Wonderwall is incredible. Mm-hmm. But no, I mean, I fell in love with the band. And what's interesting is we talk a bit about like band names and how like really like death metal bands, they try to come up with like the most intense names, like Waking the Cadaver or whatever. But if you think about it in terms of like actual legitimate like crime and terror, there's like nothing scarier than a cartel. So like,
I'll say this. Here's a question. Tweet at the show if you have an opinion at _reminiscent FM. Worst fitting band name of the decade, The Killers or Cartel?
Right, because I mean, a Cartel is aggressive as shit.
Both very palatable acts. Very, in a great way. Very approachable.
Yeah, I didn't think about that until like probably 2 days ago. Like they have the most aggressive band name probably out
I'll
of
never forget.
anyone.
I think it was Adrian, one of our Patreon supporters, who tweeted like a fake metal name, Consume the Virus. Just stuff like that, where you try to sound like nails on a chalkboard. And you ended up writing a really brilliant, I thought, Pepto-Bismol fake commercial for Consume the Virus. I thought it honestly slapped. Anyway, it's interesting. It's an interesting point because
nausea, indigestion,
diarrhea. You even auto-tuned it. I was like, Tom, how much? It must have been just a fun Saturday for you. Anyway,
it took like 40 minutes. I'll put it at the end of the show because it's honestly the best thing I've ever done.
It's tremendous. It's so good. I remember thinking about The Killers as well. It's just like, ooh, okay, buckle up. And it's like, oh, this is the best. This is the best. Especially with Cartel, because I remember seeing the music video. You know, they have the guitars come in, the little lead part. You're like, okay, catchy. This is poppy, but you know, because this is the era of Boys Like Girls, things like that. You're just like, is this going to be neon? Then the voice comes in. It's, you know, everything is, you know, blah, blah, blah. But there was nothing, you know, we've been gone on the show before and talked about some of the like quote unquote neon acts and swoopy hair acts and kind of late scene stuff. Help me try to say what I'm trying to say. Cartel isn't even that associate. They're just kind of like an alt band that doesn't have a ton to do with emo. I think it's hard to talk about them without talking about how just like they're just not just dudes, because they're tremendous at what they do, like one of the best bands of the decade for us personally, as we've mentioned already. Thoughts on like them being somebody we've of course would talk about on the show without having a ton of like some bands we talk about just because they had the eyeliner look or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, hey, this week we're talking about Skinny Jeans, specifically this music video that brought, hey, remember that look, remember this weird goth prom group you went to whatever with. But what's interesting about Cartel is they were so influential to us and we were so in the scene but they were just not just dudes, because I don't want to downplay it at all, but can you help me say what I'm trying to say? I guess it's just like kind of unassuming, but then they play and you're just like, wow, whoa, where'd that come from?
It's interesting because I feel like so many bands try to have like a thing, but Cartel's thing was just writing really amazing music, and for some reason that wasn't enough for them to like stand out as much as the other bands when they did the most important thing properly. Like, it wasn't a look. Will's just wearing New Balance, got a normal ass haircut. Like,
well, it's interesting. Weezer, when you listen to old interviews and stuff, they'd be like, "Wow, who are these nerds shredding?" You know what I mean? Like that was kind of their gimmick. It's just kind of like, "Wow, who are these like totally straight laced frat dudes?" And there's no way they're gonna like move me emotionally. And then halfway through the halftime breakdown to say anything else, you're just like crying, like, "I let her get away," just like there's no way these guys are real, but they're the most real. And their name, I love your point about Cartel and the Killers, but it's just like, how do you? Yeah, they contain multitudes. The Cartel, put some respect on the name. That's what we came here to say. We'll get to the music video at some point, but I like that. They did the most important thing well, which is the actual songs themselves were just so good, so incredible. And they tapped in. It's nice when an album has kind of not a theme, but like Van Halen, like the tapping thing took the world by storm. Nirvana, like put grunge on the map, whatever. It's almost like their halftime thing was an album. I think there's a lot to be said for what that did for, I guess, our local scene, if not the 2000s in general. Just like putting the emotional weight of what emo had become into a musical device, I guess. Do you know what I mean? Like, hey, we're going to run the chorus back, but it's going to be, like, just wait till you hear it. Like, we're going to bring it back, but just like hold on to your butts for a little bit.
It's the pop equivalent of bring the breakdown back, but slower. It's like bring the chorus back, but slower.
Right. Or the post-hardcore version of that or whatever. Just like, it's interesting because they kind of like built this place in each of their songs to drag us over the coals. And it was the best. It's like, no, we built a box for it. It's right at the end of the song. You're going to love it. Come on this way. It's going to hurt. And we were just like, I'm in. Is it in most of the song? Yeah, that's pretty much what our whole album's based on. It's like, yeah, I love that you've discovered this like sandbox for all of us just to feel stuff. And it was, I thought it was really interesting. And honestly is obviously one of the 2 or 3 quote unquote hits off the album that features one of those. And we'll get to that maybe as we kind of go scene by scene through the music video. I did want to touch briefly, because not a ton of listeners were around for the album episode, my Cartel story, I guess.
Ooh.
I don't want to build it up. Don't say ooh. It's not that good. But
oh man, I can't wait, Pat.
Oh my God. It better be good. Basically, so I think I've told the story before where like sorry, you'll have to edit this out. Ben Folds came to no, it was Dashboard came to Gannon, and my buddy Ben Bauer thought it was gonna be Ben Folds, and he's like, this guy sucks. This is not Ben Folds at all. Like this must be somebody. I don't know. He just was very excited, very into it, and one of the many instances in the 2000s where Chris Carrabba was had trouble winning over the room. But aged like a fine wine, of course. But anyway, it was one of those Gannon shows is the reason I bring that up, where, basically high schoolers, not the students at Gannon, would pay the $5 to come see these shows.
Yeah.
But I think at the time, One Republic was popping off, and they were touring, and they were going to play, and the rapper Fabulous was going to open. pretty interesting, but it was $5. Like, yeah, I'll go see One Republic for $5. Like, it was kind of like the chatter at school. Do you remember school chatter? Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever said on the show. But I don't know. I guess what I'm really trying to say is like there was like an energy that day. Like, hey, did you hear One Republic's not going to come? Like, Cartel's coming. Oh my God, for $5. They're just going to plug him in like that?
So I think it was like a day of Switch or something because everyone was going to this show. And I was like, I'm not going to go see One Republic at Fabulous. And then all of a sudden, all my friends had tickets to see Cartel and I did it.
Yeah.
It was horrifying, absolutely horrifying that I felt like I was the only person not there.
I would say it's the most day of buzz for a Erie show in our time there. Like, granted, it wasn't like really a scene show, but everyone in the scene would have been aware of it. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like a big act was playing at the Hangout or Forward Hall, some of the venues you mentioned a lot. Like, oh, they're on a bill and some of the local heroes are playing on the bill. It was just like a college act tour. But that, you know, we've told stories before. One of your first shows was at Penn State, the Barron, the Erie campus.
You found glory.
Yeah. So it was nice having a couple colleges locally that would pull shows every once in a while. Also, I'll say this. Fabulous still opened and almost blew the roof off the place. Like, they had a live drummer and he honestly brought the thunder in a major way that was so unexpected because you had all these like, basically, I don't know if, you know, just basically preppy Erie kids lining the halls of Gannon's, you know, basketball stadium. And he came in and, you know, of the era, you know, watches, whatever. But honestly, it was just like, hey, Erie, what's up? And the live drummer was like, as soon as he hit the snare, it was just on for like, you know, a nice tight 10 to 15 opener act amount of minutes. And it was a delight. And the energy was high and everyone's like, wow, that was unexpected. I thought this was going to be a fucking train wreck because these are very two different bands, especially now the Cartel's on the bill. But everyone was just very into it. And people in the student union came out between acts to throw like free stuff out, basically. One of them being, they were like Xbox games. I was like, whoa, Xbox, like, whoa. I don't have one. Like, I wasn't a gamer, but I'm like, this is pretty good gifts. Turns out they weren't that good at gifts. I caught one, and it was a game called Blue Dragon, which I guess is an RPG. Help me out, Tom. Role-playing game.
Oh, I don't know. Apparently, it's like a weird cult classic. I remember seeing something about it on Twitter, and I was like, shit, that's the
I brought it to my buddy Kevin's, you know, in the weeks following, and he's like, oh, Blue Dragon, I've heard of that, you know, and we just played it. It was just like, it was an okay game, but I was just like, oh, right, I got a free thing.
It's an indie game.
Yeah, something. I just was intrigued. Like, what if I just caught something that's worth a lot? It wasn't. It was just like, obviously, the Gannon Student Union had like some throwaways from the Best Buy up on Peace Street, I'm sure. But anyway, Will came on stage and cracked the joke. I guess it's not too late to apologize for One Republic not showing up tonight, but we're Cartel. And everyone was like, okay, how's this going to go? That was not a great joke. And they ripped it up. It was so good. It was the best $5 I've ever spent, and it's not close. Yes. So that would have been the song that One Republic was touring at the time. Too late. Anyway, then, you know, if you've heard snippets on the show before, we had like a ceramics debacle where we were trying to make an item that we thought was silly and funny, that you could do illicit things outside of school on, but we thought it'd be hilarious to have baked it in
the school.
Yes. And whether or not that happened, it remains up for debate. You know, wherever that item is, it's hard to say. Maybe it was broken by specifically the person that told me someone had stolen it. Who's to say? But in theory, the item was going to be nicknamed Blue Dragon after the video game because I thought that was so funny. Maybe it's funny, maybe it's not, probably not. But we would hold our kind of like hands together like a B and a D and like at assemblies and stuff and just be like, rest in peace, Blue Dragon, wherever you are, you beautiful bastard. And just silly ceramics things where they shouldn't let teens like have access to kilns, I guess is the larger point of this story. And I blame Cartel. No. Anyway, it's not really a story so much as I feel like I have been talking too long already or something. But yeah, a lot happened around the spending of $5 that day. And yeah, memories were made. What can I say?
I do remember when you were elected school president for the senior year, whatever, like they announced it for junior year, and then the tradition was that the new school president gets to dismiss the entire school for summer break, and it was like a big deal. And I remember usually they give a speech and you were just like, get out of here. And you threw up the blue dragon like from the podium. And I still have a video from my Motorola Razr of you throwing up the blue dragon to the whole school. And only like 5 people knew what it meant. And to me, it was just so funny. Obviously, myself being straight edge my whole life, I was involved. I was pretty good at ceramics, and y'all needed some help.
Well, yeah, it was supposed to be a tobacco pipe of sorts. And this was, and I'm not just saying this was legitimately the other individual's idea. It was a girl I was trying to impress, part of a group of that we spent the summer hanging out together, the 4 of us, right? And I was like, yeah, this is the type of hijinks we get involved with all the time. I'm like, Tom, what the hell is this called? And how would you do that theoretically in a ceramic situation? And you were like, I'm going to help you, but this is the dumbest, most idiotic thing that you're ever going to like get thrown out of school for.
Because it absolutely could not blow up in the kiln. So he had to bring in a pro
or
to
be
make
found
sure
in it. There had to be.
Right.
It was Ocean's 11 like. It was a window where a student helper came in to turn it off in the early morning so it cooled down in time to unload. And there was a window before the teacher got there that we would hopefully be able to put some gloves on, get in, unstack everything. Somehow it ended up being the thing on the bottom of the fucking stove. So we're unpacking it, faces red, sweating, looking over our shoulders the whole time for someone to break in. The student helper that let us into the room was just like looking at us like, this ain't me, man. This is you guys. So anyway, we got it. And for years, the person who I was trying to impress that inspired Blue Dragon to be even made in the first place, I never saw it get used. The person was like, yeah, they must have stolen it. And I was like, why that person? She was like, I don't know. But the girl was basically banking on me never seeing that person. But I think I did because the ear is only so big. And he's like, no, I don't know. What are you talking about, man? Like years later. And then years later after that, they was like, okay, so maybe I just said that because I broke it like immediately. So like risked everything just for like something that didn't work, A, and B, broke immediately, and C, was named after apparently a cult classic Xbox RPG that we only knew about because One Republic couldn't play a Ganon show that cost $5 to get into. And Cartel was there. That's my seeing Cartel live story that devolved into this weird, shitty heist movie that had no payoff and nobody wins, which maybe that makes for the best kind of heist movie. Nobody wins, I don't know. But
oh, God.
That's why that loosely relates to Cartel and what we're talking about.
And you know what? For the word cartel, that's oddly on brand for the activities that should be involved with that.
You bastard.
Okay, so we told that story a long time ago. We got it out. We spent more than half the episode talking about it. So let's talk about Cartel, this song in the video.
There was a point where I wasn't sure if you were even still there. I'm like, is this even landing?
Dude, I started like choking on spit running down my throat, so I muted myself as I was like...
Okay, because usually I'm playing off your giggles whenever we talk in general in life. So I'm like, dying. And then we were at the show, and then the show was like, this is pretty good actually. And there's a girl, and I liked her like for drugs. So no. Anyways, fast facts, fun facts, facts that are both fast and fun. Let's get to it.
Fast and fun. Yeah, this is their lead single from, obviously, the album Chroma, which was their debut single, released in 2006. So in December, we'll be coming up on, was that 15 years? Oh, my God. All right. Did pretty well on TRL, which is just such a fun thing to say.
Yeah.
All right. Here's where it gets just insane. The entire album was recorded in 8 days. 8 days, Pat. This is like a fever you can't sweat out territory. I think they had to do that in like 6 because they weren't like a proven act yet, so they didn't get the budget. Studio time can be like $1,000 a day, right? So 8 days, which for what a masterpiece this is. Okay. They recorded the album version of Honestly, and apparently it featured a lot of riffs that weren't on the original demo. And now I'm dying to hear this demo and also what riffs they're talking about, because this is a well-composed song. I wonder who helped with the riffs. Was it more the producer? Was it more just hearing a good recording of it? Whatever. Will states that the song wasn't quite coming together, so they had like scratch vocals that they just decided to throw over instead of the more produced ones, and he said it just fit perfectly, and that helped the song come together. And what's so fascinating is after like working with great producers whose specialty is vocal production, you start to hear things that are there, or I guess you start to notice when things aren't there in a song that was not produced with like vocals in mind, I guess. And listening back, obviously this is like such a killer song, but the vocals, while they're great, they felt rushed. It feels like maybe one take. There's some harmonies, but not many. It's just like one track. And as I was listening back the other day, I was like, man, this sounds rushed. And after hearing that they did the whole fucking album in 8 days and they threw demo vocals over this, it sheds a lot of light on the situation. But also the thing that I really want people to come away with is demo vocals should not sound this good. Like, Will is such an incredible singer. If you watch those AOL live sessions, he is flawless except for like 2 bad notes over 3 songs, which lets you know there wasn't pitch correction on the video. This dude just has a perfect voice. It's so incredible.
Yeah, I think if we're going to spend this episode rightfully apologizing for any perceived slights, even though I'm sure we were gushing about the album when we talked about it before, just the title was probably the only thing that was bad or regrettable for that matter. Yeah, I mean, let's just keep pouring it on. Will, slept on, constantly underrated. I mean, should always get talked about. I mean, of all the bands that get like, I'm not here to, whatever, but like Thursday, for example, like The Hold Steady is another example. Just like people who are just like, yeah, man, it's not about the vocals or whatever, songwriting, blah, blah, blah. But like, we can't just only give props to like Haley Williams and Patrick Stump pretty much for like doing vocal things that go beyond like your standard punk, like guttural chanting type, Gregorian chant type stuff. No, Will was a superstar, but I don't know if there was something unassuming about the band or if I'm just projecting. I don't even know if that's accurate. Yeah, he's a star. I mean, I think we can just say that. And I would be shocked if anybody disagreed. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think they were just, I don't know, victims of like not being flashy enough for this time. Like Flash Over Substance was the name of 2007, I think anyways.
Yeah, that's the whole, yeah. Yes, well put.
So I think they just came in at the wrong time and they were like too good for what people were taking in at the time. I don't know, man. Like, oh, he's such a fucking star. He's so handsome and such a good songwriter and vocalist. I mean, you hear about, like, we talked about Fireworks. They were just like really underappreciated. And I feel like Cartel is criminally underappreciated, even by ourselves 2 years ago. To pull this off in 8 days, I mean, I've been recording the same song for like 7 years. So like, and it's not good. So, it's insane. It's really insane. Demo vocals on the lead single. I mean, they can't f it up if they tried, is kind of what it seems like. I don't know, maybe Band in a Bubble had different plans for them, but I don't know. I mean, so speaking of his voice, it's super interesting to me. I felt like it was a middle ground between Patrick Stump and Danny from Bedlight for Blue Eyes. It's like a little theatrical. He's got some interesting runs here and there, like really beautiful vibrato that comes in very like rarely, I guess. Lots of control.
Do you get like
man.
docked negative points for being actually talented? You know what I mean? In a weird way, like that's what's
like
so interesting
singing
about
from your diaphragm. Like,
that's what's so interesting about the Bedlight for Blue Eyes thing. It's just, that dude was throwing it down, but you're like, is this good? I can't even tell. As a teen, you're like, oh, I mean, I like it if you like it. That Chris Farley, David Spade type thing. Like, I won't change the channel if you won't change the channel. Right. I know we loved it, but I'm curious if you get like, I guess I'm envisioning the Hard Times headline at this point, but just kind of like, rough go for a punk lead singer that can actually wail. I don't know.
Right. Well, and they weren't really a music video band either. I mean, I think you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lack of presence knock, maybe, but also like that's not the point. Like if you listen to the songs, you know what's there, you know what's in them, and they put on a pretty good live show when I saw them. So I don't know, like what's interesting about this era is it was so theatrical. We talk about some of the great music video bands, MCR included, obviously, the world building, all that stuff. How much should what you bring to a music video have to say about your legacy as a band, do you think?
Well, if they're only getting 8 days to lay down a whole record, they're probably getting half a day to shoot a music video. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there was definitely some green screen. That was not done outside for sure. There's like some loose, weird illustrations. All right, we'll get to it soon.
Yeah.
Any more fast facts, by the way?
Well, a couple of like charting things. Yeah, the song peaked at number 89 on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100. It charted number 26 on U.S. pop songs. What? That's crazy. Good for them. And peaked at number 65 on Hot Digital Singles. The song was certified gold in 2015. And the song was featured on the soundtrack for the film John Tucker Must Die. Awesome.
Hell yes, it was. Someday we'll be together. No, we'll do the soundtrack battle. And someday we'll talk a lot about John Tucker Must Die.
I've never seen it. We should live stream it again. You should come down here.
Legitimately tremendous.
Okay. We'll do it.
She's like cool. She listens to podcasts by like David Eggers.
I don't get the reference.
At the time, the people who did weren't watching John Tucker Must Die. I can promise you that.
All right, I hope you're enjoying this apology/gush fest to Cartel. But I want to take a quick moment to thank our emo elders, our council of elders. These are our top tier Patreon supporters. In this group, we have Andre Prevost, Johnny Leftwich, Jason Carey, Anonymous, Chris Lukey, JW Johnson, and Nathan Eshelman. Thank you all for supporting the show. Thank you to everyone in the Patreon. Recently, we just published an exclusive video interview with a very kind journalist out of the UK that is in the Patreon only. We've got post shows, teasers of projects that we're working on, all kinds of stuff. So if you'd like to check that out, you can head to patreon.com/reminiscent to find out how you can support the show. And if you don't want to do that, you can hit us up on Twitter. That is definitely another great way to support the show. Again, thank you all so much, and back to the episode. All right, so lay down the music video. I do want to talk about the band. Okay, we'll get there. Let's start with the music video. What do we have?
Band in a box.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah, we do.
If you're just joining, there's a certain low budget band in a box thing where it's exactly what it sounds like. And it's something it doesn't take long to pick up on when you talk about this genre, this era. Not a ton of quiche behind some of these music videos where they just toss them in a freezer, they toss them in front of a green screen, they shove the instruments together, and they just record it from a bunch of angles. I guess you could argue that that's like every music video ever, but specifically for pop punk and emo in the 2000s, it was real cramped. But they're playing in this kind of like cartoonish land, kind of narrating. I guess there's pictures on the wall. I don't know, help me out a little bit. There's pictures on the wall. There's kind of like this like analog to digital transition going on around the band that'll flow into the storylines of the music video.
So yeah, they set the scene well they're in the box. They've got a bunch of pictures around, and we see a couple different things. We see teens at one of the Moo gateway computers, the cow print gateways. And we see some words about me, favorite bands, browse for friends, and I'd like to meet, which I would have had a fuzzy idea of what that was, but only because we joined Space Hay recently am I very familiar with those. Were the like the about me boxes on MySpace that you would fill in, like I'd like to meet.
Good catch. Nice.
Yeah, so we are deep into MySpace, like the era of MySpace, making bands at this time.
It's weird to think about social media coming to life during the era where people's quote unquote computer rooms would have had a Gateway 95. Like, it's hard to, like with iPhones, it's hard to envision, like, I guess I remember logging onto a freaking Gateway 95 and aiming it up, MySpacing it up. Shout out to Windows 95 for the free games that came on real quick. Can we talk about Ski Free for a second?
Wait, what's that?
You would have to ski down a hill, but there's a twist. A monster could eat you at any moment. It was the most exhilarating game I've ever played to this day.
I always liked the pinball. What was it? Invader? What was it? Pinball? Invader Pinball?
I think that might have been like second generation, Tom. Might have been second generation.
Okay.
But Chips Challenge, there was a couple. There's some Tetris might have been on there, maybe a little bit.
Oh,
no, you're right. The pinball, many hours. Snood was the only game I actually felt the need to download.
I should live stream that tonight.
Do it.
Just playing Snood, listening
Twitch,
to
the most basic like shape games possible.
For sure.
But not even like good shape games like Katamari, just like shape games. Snood. Okay. Also, real quick, checking a touch. Are you surprised when TRL comes up when we do some of the research for some of these episodes? Like, I was like, wow, I would have assumed we would have been way past the TRL years at this point.
Dude, I didn't have cable. I never saw TRL. I think the only footage I've ever seen of TRL is a performance of Blink-182 that I downloaded on Kazaa or something of them playing.
Yeah, I think
on
I've
TRL.
only seen like movie versions when like before New York gets destroyed, where Carson Daly's just like fake introducing TRL in a movie, but I've never seen it because you and I grew up without cable, like just like you mentioned, and so it's kind of interesting. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess deep into the 2000s they were still rolling bands out. Yeah, shout out to TRL. I guess hard to say. Anyway, sorry to derail. Yes, so MySpace. So they're staying pretty true to what we paint the 2000s to have felt like on this show. Turns out we're not really elaborating. That if they're doing the 4 buttons from MySpace, that is exactly what the hell was going on at the time.
Yeah.
And I don't feel so bad for mentioning MySpace so often in the recording process of this show week after week.
Dude, MySpace was such a magical time to me because like this whole video is depicting like the effects of social media, right? If only they knew what would happen once our parents got on Facebook. MySpace was just pure anxiety and adrenaline. Like everyone on there was just, I mean, everyone that I followed it anyway was like, it was so cutesy goth like aesthetic, and I don't know, dude. I miss MySpace so much. I wish more people that I knew were on Space. Hey, I think Jeremy just added us the other day. Damn, MySpace was the good old days, Pat.
Not to interrupt, but I have a question for you.
Okay.
Thoughts on sweaters and collared shirts under sweaters?
Well, the first person that comes to mind, obviously, is Andrew McMahon at this point.
Yeah, good call.
So, again, another, I mean, I didn't know them too much, but like, did these bands not get big enough because people couldn't hang with the sweaters and the collars?
You know what I didn't think about? Is Cartel khaki rock?
Now
that I'm thinking about it, because we lump some, or at least I lump something corporate and Relient K together a lot as like khaki rock loosely for this show's purposes. And I'm like, there's this like approachability. We spent the first, chunk of this episode talking about like Cartel. Yeah, there's something like there was no edge to them, but like, yeah, there's a whole subgenre of non-edge, crazy great bands from the 2000s. Has Cartel been khaki rock this whole time or not quite?
I don't.
Or just like a nice pair of jeans rock. Just like a nice pair. You know what I mean? Nice pair of jeans.
I feel like that makes sense as to why.
But it doesn't quite fit. But I'm like, okay, I feel like we've already created this weird Venn diagram for ourselves where Andrew McMahon lives over here with Relient K, and that's makes sense based on all those music videos. And I'm just like, I want to put that there, but it doesn't quite fit. It's very adjacent. But anyway, I'm like, oh my God, are they khaki rock? I guess not. Wanted to float that out there real quick.
I think like if there's a Venn diagram of khaki rock and then like pop punk, they're in the middle, and that might have been.
We'll call it nice pair of jeans rock. Just a nice pair.
Yeah. Sensible jeans rock.
There you go. That's right. And sensible, not sensible footwear rock. That's a whole different thing. Okay. People on the computer. There's a girl, one has, with her finger in her mouth. There's a bunch of boys and girls, kind of teenage.
Yeah.
There's definitely a sexual energy to these youths
and
their newfound online, I guess, personalities. They seem to be a little more freewheeling online. Or that seems to be the setup. Thoughts on being on a computer for the first time and trying to have a profile show who you are?
It was a long time until I was on a social media platform that had a profile that showed my face. I think it would have been MySpace, because before that it was like AIM sub-profiles, literally putting in a CD, logging onto AOL, and going into the kids' chat rooms and getting banned for scrolling. And they sent my mom an email and I cried. I didn't even know what scrolling meant at the time. But apparently when you send like one letter at a time, one of the moderators, I think they just, shadow banned me for like 20 minutes. My mom was like, what is scrolling? I was like, I don't know.
Sounds bad.
Right?
It's like the kid when he asked me, like, do you know what a poser is when I was too young? I'd be like, is it something like with sex or something? He's like, dude, no, it's just like, it's like, I don't know. It's like, dude, hey, you know what scrolling is? It's like, yeah, is it something with like sex or something? Like, no, it's just like, what? No. But I can picture your mom, like any mom, would just be like, what is scrolling? It's like, I don't even know myself.
Every band name I ever gave to her, she was like, is that drugs? Linkin Park, is that drugs? Anyways, yeah, so there's like some people at the computer and it starts off like innocent enough. They're just logging on. And then
Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros, is that drugs? It's like, well,
My Chemical Romance. Like, yeah, I think that one is.
It's hard to say. It's not sensible gene rock, I can tell you that one.
So yeah, people at the computers kind of looking interested in each other, and it and then the hair starts getting longer and they're taking pictures with the angles. Do you remember the angles?
Yeah. I remember Duckface being an early, like, so this is definitely like early selfie culture here that they're portraying. I remember the Duckface being like, I don't know, early Reddit poking fun at stuff, just like LOL. I don't know, back when like original meme status. Yeah, I don't remember taking too many myself. Mirror. Subconscious kind of lurching out a little bit, I guess. That's depressing. It's been a dry weekend for me, so maybe my brain's just like, but what if? I'm like, I don't know. No, mirror pics and duck lips and stuff like that. I don't really remember, I don't know, doing it myself so much.
Oh, I loved the angles, dude.
Yeah, because in this video, I'm like, tweet at us at the show. What was were you sitting at the computer when it happened? Where did you go to find your photos? I guess I was always hoping the photos were being taken and I would have some to choose from just from being around people who were doing that sort of thing. I don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, the angles were fun. I was definitely, I partook in the angles, which is not drugs, Mom. But like eventually the angles were outed as like, oh, it's a little sus if you're taking pictures at the angles. Cause like, I don't know, I wasn't a very confident person. So I thought if I took a picture from a weird angle and I looked weird, it was because of the angle and not because I looked weird. The psychology of self-portraits, man.
I will say, it's interesting because some people would sing about it in like 8 years after that and be like, you got to work the angles. So it's like, eventually it became a thing to get good at. And now I feel like with the TikTok, YouTube era, people are very like in tune with capturing video, just of a higher quality in general. But back then it was just like, so we're supposed to take pictures of ourselves in videos and stuff, like with what? How? It's like, oh, with the thing in your hand immediately at any time. And it's just like, I feel like there's definitely it was awkward for everyone, I think, for a few minutes there. And by minutes, I mean several years of just like very zany, Funny or Die sketches, weird, low quality, low res videos and goofy. Even the popular YouTube videos were just like made in paint and put over Fall Out Boy songs and stuff. So it was just kind of just like definitely the Wild West. Yeah, I mean, I think when things
start off, they start as like extremes, and then over time it finds itself in the middle more as like people find out how to like do it well.
I will say, shout out to the mirror pick, run of TikTok videos where people like hop in the mirror. I think the most famous one relevant to our show would be like day 2 of listening to Blink-182, day 3. And, but it's them in a mirror pick. So I'm like, shout out to the mirror pick for like having some lasting power. It's just it's a place where you can, anyway.
I remember I found, for a while I was waking up early and watching Photoshop tutorials on YouTube to try to get better at Photoshop. And I learned one where you take 3 pictures of yourself with your hands against the mirror. And then you like take certain sections so that it's like a self-portrait, but both your hands are in the screen. So it's like, who took the picture? And I remember, people thought the camera was like hiding in my beard and shit. So it was fun to like take a classic, like just the traditional mirror photo and do something unique with it, I guess. I've got lots of mirror photos from 2008, 9,
You're a
10.
tech guy. You're a tinkerer. I could picture that. I feel like it was right up your alley. It's like, okay, there gets to be an internet version of communication. I don't know. I feel like, did it comfort teen you? Like, all right, let's get into it. Or no, did it scare you tremendously?
Well, first of all, I was probably 25.
No, I mean at the time of Cartel's music video coming out.
Oh, I think I only saw this video for the first time the other day, actually.
Wow. Okay. Well, you saw something I didn't. You had a note here about the drummer. What's going on?
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to ask, did you notice anything about the drummer? Like anything at all? You didn't. Okay. So it's mostly common for people to play the hi-hat on the left side and then the toms to be in descending tone from left to right. And it's built for like a right-handed person. And usually the hands are crossed. If you've noticed a drummer playing, their hands are crossed. If a left-handed drummer is learning drums, usually they'll just learn how to play it right-handed. The other option is they'll just uncross their hands and they'll hit the snare with the right hand rather than the left. What the drummer of Cartel does was he mirrored his entire drum set so that it moves from right to left with his hi-hat on the other side. So he plays cross-handed, but in a horizontal mirroring so that his drum set looks backwards. It's like super rare to see that. It's honestly the only time I've ever seen it, because you just learn how to play it the way drums are usually set up. And it kind of made me think, like, when you're coming up in a scene, usually you have to share like a whole stage setup. Like every band uses the drums that come with the venue. So like, how hard would it be to be like, oh shit, everything is backwards? That's fucking crazy. But I remember thinking it was so interesting how it was set up. And also there's like this whole mix.
Well, there's not usually much variation, honestly. Like most of the time, at all. Right. It's weird how conventional. I mean, if you asked a drummer and a drummer were in a room or at a bar talking about it, I'm sure there's much variation. But like in this, it doesn't seem like it seems like there would be more, or maybe it seems like there. I don't know. What do you think? Like, I guess as a what am I trying to say? Yeah, is there a right or wrong way to do it? I guess is my question as a layperson.
No, I mean, what matters is like how well they play, right? But it's just so unique, and also like
yeah. Or I guess let me rephrase: like when you're learning guitar, you put the biggest string on top, and then you play.
Right,
you know what I mean? But like
right.
to take an item and move it seems like whoa, what? That seems kind of wild.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I just think it puts them in a tough spot where like if you had to borrow someone else's set for any reason, it's like a guitarist. They're shit breaking and asking to borrow someone else's guitar, and everyone else plays left-handed guitars. You just wouldn't be able to play. So like it's just really interesting that he started off that way and stuck with it. It's just interesting to see. You don't see it much, so I wanted to point it out.
All right.
But through the video, it's flipping back and forth between the teens on the computers, the band in the box. And yeah, it starts off by just looking at the computers, and then they start taking pictures from the angles. And, and then it gets progressively more and more sexual as like one of the dudes like lifts up his shirt to show his abs. One girl's like pulling the waist of her pants down to show like a hip tattoo. And what you kind of realize is that there's a girl on the left side, boy on the right side, facing each other like split screen, but you realize they're like interacting with each other. They're like sending each other these pictures.
Before, well, they're interacting, and then what's your interpretation? They agree to go out into the world, or they run in? Because eventually they go out into the quote unquote the world. Really, it's like a green screen cartoon version. There's like subways and libraries, and there's some scenes they place our heroes in, but our heroes, I don't know, just the quote unquote teen them.
Right. I mean, lots of smiles as they're interacting on the computer. They're running to the computer to talk to each other and thrilled when they're talking. And then they end up running into each other in the real world. I don't think it was planned, because you often see like the guy or the girl being like, oh, is that them? And like what happens is they end up putting a hand over their face and like running away in fear, not knowing how to interact IRL.
Subway guy almost does, like at the last minute. Because like, we're working through, not the bridge, but we're going to the halftime, half the time, but double the fun we have in our notes here written down. But credit to the guy on the subway. He did go back and then try to run through the doors to get to the girl, but the doors closed. He's the only one who actually was like, I'm going to do it. But everyone chickens out and goes, well, I guess not to zip through it, but, they go back home and continue communicating online the way they were. And they all get a chance to meet in person. And nobody except one kind of even really wants to do it in person.
Right. They end up back at their computers looking almost like ashamed of themselves, and then logging on and smiling again as they talk to the person online. And dude, this was me to a T in high school. And even to this day, I don't know how to like interact with people in real life. I don't know how to hold a conversation, but I feel like I can do it online all day. Or I used to. I'm honestly find it more and more exhausting, but like thinking of...
Can I challenge you for a minute?
Okay.
Before the call, you said you brought some pastries to your neighbor. I'm just saying, that seems like a pretty nice thing, Tom. That seems like... I feel like you may have evolved a touch from your MySpace era Tom self. That's all. I'm just saying, I would love to be your neighbor. That sounds very nice.
It's hard, dude. Even that, like, our neighbor's just so nice and so personable, and I, like... Okay, bye. She's like, well,
it's hard to be the new person in the neighborhood
how's things going
too,
with
Tom.
the baby, So,
I'm not saying you're like, I'm not here to be like, Tom, no, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just saying like, I want to get a pastry. That's really what I'm saying. I don't really care about your neighbors, but I want a pastry is what I'm saying.
Well, okay, let me take you back to 2007. There was this girl that I had the biggest crush on, and I would spend every night in my basement listening to Riot by Paramore, playing RuneScape, and talking to this girl on AIM for like 5 or 6 hours at a time, like every day.
Should I know who this is? Oh!
And then I would go to the Edinburgh Hangout, seemed like maybe every other weekend, and she would be there, and she would be like, Tom, hey, and I'd be like, hi, and run away. Just like not even know what to do. Like we have like this deep history at this point, and I can't talk to her in person. And I had this stint in college even where I would end up like dating, kind of like internet dating girls from like a different city, just communicating online, because I was like too horrified to like date them in real life / in person.
It's interesting. I was always horrified of communicating online because, well, both, I guess, as a teen, but online for me, it was like when you're nervous, crack a joke or whatever. But really, the written word is kind of tough if you have never met the person. Like, so you don't really know the inflection points or anything like that. So, you'd say something and then you'd be like overly apologetic and send like former messages saying like, oh, just kidding. Just kind of
right.
Like
no.
ruining any pacing.
But that was me too.
Whatsoever.
That was me too.
So I would at least, if I ever had the chance, would have preferred at least an outside chance at doing it in person, just because online it was just like, I would fall apart quick. Just like get nervous, make a joke, apologize for the joke, run away virtually. You know what I mean? But in person, you get at least like have the cadence and the way you say it. And I was always just horribly awful at that sort of thing. At even like, unless it was like, there's the instances of whether it's your best friend or whoever, just like, I think everyone from that era has that like hours long AIM chat they had with somebody that was like, this feels, like I'm connecting with someone. Hell yeah. I'm growing up. It's happening. But yeah, I remember just like give or take. I was bad at that part of it, weirdly, on the other side of that coin. So it was intimidating to me. I was like, what do you say? Like, hey, robot, tell the other robot to, I don't know. It was just, I was never good at it. And I guess this is me to a T, just like, this. I'm over it. New thing. Move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the other things that kind of came from communicating online. Not that like we're getting pretty far from cartel at this point, but just like the concept of catfishing, things like that. Like just like, yeah, Wild West for sure. And it was interesting, I thought, for a music video to take a stab at just being like, things are going to be like very different. Like I can't remember, like looking back now, that's like every fucking movie's about, like every podcast is just like, well, and then social media came and, right. I don't know if you noticed, but things are a little different now. But it's just kind of like, it was kind of interesting for somebody in real time to like, I think it was kind of early to jump on board with like, not that like 1984 isn't like a famous novel and shit, like constantly. People I guess humans always just in fear of the next technology. That's kind of our thing. But in terms of 2000s music videos being fearful of social media, this felt like one of the first ones to really put a pin on like, hey man, this is pretty much what's happening. And in a very relatable way, even then, it's just like, yeah, that's kind of it.
Well, dude, and again, how much worse is it going to get? Because like we had to go into our computer room to interact with people online. Now we just have it with us all the time. And
I don't know how to answer the question. And I might argue, I'm not sure where that show. I'm not sure where the right show to tackle. But
well, not right now, definitely. But
it's not fair to Will and crew. No, just kidding. Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's an interesting question. We need Cartel to come out with a new music video to tell us how the next 10 years are going to go.
Right.
And if that gets us new Cartel music, I'm all for it.
So just to summarize, I guess, the whole song, I don't think it's the best one off this album.
Which speaks to the strength of the album, not the weakness of this song.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm not great at writing guitar parts because I'm not great at guitar. But any time that I can't think of what to do with a lead part, I do the gak, 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 which just like is lifted directly from this song. They have 3 guitarists, which opens you up to some possibilities. It's a really fun guitar song for sure. Like nice little rhythmic piece. The way the chorus always comes down for like just 4 bars on the third time. I don't know if you noticed this. Every chorus is different. The first time it's only half a chorus. The second time they give you twice as much. The second time they give you just as much, but half the speed. And they very consciously wrote a song to keep your interest the whole way through. And they did it. I think they did it with the whole album. There might be like, maybe Save Us could have been, I don't know, maybe something different. It's good enough song, but like maybe get stuck somewhere in the middle. Do they just write? Oh God, I want better for Cartel so badly.
Yeah, I think if we were going to play the alternate universe game, I'm sure there's plenty where Band in a Bubble went off to some other sorry suckers. Not suckers, but just like some other band that got duped into that, thinking there would be this project without corporate sponsors and stuff that ended up being the most MTV'd up fake reality drama show. It's interesting to hear them talk about how like they would try to create drama on set by waking them up early and just kind of low-key torturing them. Very weird and sad and stupid. But yeah, I think if we're going to play the alt universe game, I'd love to visit the universe where Cartel just still got to live their lives as a band and just exist as they are without having, not the stink of Band in a Bubble, but having that be kind of like, oh yeah, Chroma was great, then Band in a Bubble, which is a lazy take and like doesn't account for all the other great stuff they put out. But you know what I mean? I think there was a legitimate disruption of momentum.
Well, also going back to like earlier, I said like they were just a really good band that didn't have like a thing. Maybe people just associated with their thing as like they weren't good enough to write an album, so they had to use some, hokey reality TV stunt. Which is not true.
Of course that's not true.
But I'm just saying, what if
what their thing
people
is,
associated that?
Well, we're coining a new term, sensible gene rock. But also, I'm going to credit them with the emo box. Like, hey, no, we're going to, the halftime chorus after the bridge, we'll call it the emo box. That's where we get to feel the feelings. It's very like, it's kind of like when someone is like ahead of their time in industry and someone comes along and improves it and makes more money off it or something. It's just kind of like they took emo and was like, no, there's a place for it in the song. We're going to feel a ton of stuff throughout, but specifically in the emo box. It's like, oh my God. So I'm going to credit them with the halftime chorus as just being like, as if it was the fucking like, I don't know.
The Beatles of sensible gene rock.
Oh my God, get out of here. It was almost as if it was like the printing press for emo or something, which is like a major fucking invention.
What?
It felt big. We wrote all of our songs based on that model.
We did.
Like as a band.
Did.
It took over our lives. I think we cannot oversell how important that band was to us and what the songs sounded like on that album, Chroma specifically, and how good they were. And yeah, like you said, honestly, might not even be the best song on the album. And that's not a knock on honestly. So anyway, yeah, this has been, an attempt at a redemption episode, long overdue. That'll be probably won't hear the Blue Dragon Ganon story for a while. So we're running through some of the ones we said long ago, and trying to come up with some new bands and new episodes to try to bring out some other stories and things like that. But that felt like it was worth digging back up because it informs, if you listen to the show a lot, some of the other characters that come up, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Damn.
Actually, in the post show, I'd like to discuss the dumbest thing you've ever done for a girl, because that was had to have been it for me, but now I kind of want to think about it for a second.
Dumbest thing I've ever done. Okay, we'll get there. Let's do a song of the week, and then we'll answer that question in the post show.
Yeah, "Give Me Dying to Know" by Justin Courtney Pierre. Yeah, he came out with some solo stuff, and it's like pretty fun. Part of my heart is like, could this not have been just like a pretty decent Motion City soundtrack album? Sorry, I get the abbreviations mixed up. The three letter acts. Anyway, I'm like, part of me wishes it was a MCS album, but yeah, it's pretty good. "Hate Myself" is like a little like, he uses that lyric a lot, and it's like kind of jarring at first. I still need more time with it, but "Dying to Know" is a really good opener on that. I like it. It's interesting. Good for him.
All right. Somehow 1950 by King Princess came back into my life. And that song just takes me away, dude. I
talk about danger.
Right. There was like a night where Megan went to sleep early and I was just like washing the dishes with my AirPods in, with like the light right over the sink beaming down on me, and it just like, I don't know, set the scene for like some weird drama movie.
Like it's your one-man show and there's a light and you're at a fake sink and you throw a rag over your shoulder. It's like, I guess it was moments like these where I started to think long and hard about what the hell I was doing with my life. And
that's
every
what it
Friday
felt like,
I find myself over this same sink with that same song on the radio. And damn it if I didn't want to do something about it. So yeah, anyway, I'd watch the shit out of that. I'd come to that one-man show if we both were New York people, which we're not, very much not. But yeah, I'd watch that.
Thanks, man.
That's going to be in the John Nolan story, Subtle as a Brick. Yeah. We'll write that shit in.
Subtle as a brick. So good. Well, all right.
That's it.
Glad we got to do Cartel. Do them right this time. Thank you all for listening to our probably insufferable high school stories throughout this whole
there's a percentage of you that have heard the Ganon story twice at this point. Right. Thanks for hanging in. All right, bye.
All right. Yeah, thanks for being here. Love you all. Bye, everyone. All right, hey, everybody. Thank you so much for making it all the way through to the episode and suffering through the same stories I feel like we tell every single week. You can find the show notes for this episode at reminiscentpodcast.com/episode/225. And please hit us up on Twitter at _reminiscentfm. Is Cartel undoubtedly the most hardcore band name that has ever existed? I think so, but let us know. We love you all so much. We'll talk to you next week. Bye, everyone. Heartburn, nausea, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea. Heartburn, nausea, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.